I'm recording this coming home after a work function. So that's why I'm dressed. Not that I'm dressed to the nines. Okay? I'm not saying that either. Let's be honest, I'm not that guy. But I'm dressed better than usual, right? I would say I'm dressed better than usual for the most part. If there's a lot of background noise, which is probably the case, I'm going to blame it on two things. A, my AC in this fucking Brooklyn apartment. That bitch is louder than an earthquake. I don't know. Picture that shit's louder than a jet engine, okay? That thing's just going for whatever reason, stupid loud. And then the second thing is my damn cat. Y'all met him on one of the previous episodes. His name's Kumail Nanjiani, all that shit. He's in the background somewhere, being a cat, doing cat shit, smoking catnip, whatever it may be. Anyways, your boy's a little tipsy right now. Not really tipsy, but beer buzzed, I would say. In my book, buzzed is lower than tipsy. I don't know why. I know a lot of people actually believe the contrary, that tipsy comes before being buzzed. I feel like that doesn't really make much sense, but these are all just random, stupid little conversations. Back to the main original point. I'm dressed like this because I had a recent revelation, okay? So Brooklyn is synonymous with many things. Biggie Smalls. Yo, this fucking cat's crazy. Biggie Smalls, great pizza, one of New York City's most authentic boroughs, whatever it is, right? But it's also now in the modern day associated with fucking hipsters, particularly Williamsburg. And what's synonymous with hipsters? Thrift shops. The reason I'm mentioning all this, shout out to, once again, I mean, I've done like 50,000 shout outs on here. But shout out to my girlfriend. We went thrifting because we needed to shop for some clothing. Me, my girlfriend, and one of my boys, because he just needed a new set of clothes. I was like, yo, we should go thrifting. We're in Brooklyn. Why not? When in Rome, right? So we went out. And most of the time when we go out thrifting, the couple times that I've been, it's a fucking shit show, right? They never have anything in my size. I would say I'm an XL this way and probably this way, but I'm a double XL in length. And that's something that really bothers me, is when I feel like my fucking happy trail is sticking out the bottom of a t-shirt, or if I lift my arms above my head and you could see like belly button, you could see straight up navel. That's not something that I feel like a lot of people want to see. I don't think that's something that, it's just not for me. I'm not really comfortable dressing in like crop tops and shit. I'm not Ezekiel Elliott. You know, he does his thing. He got a six pack, whatever. I don't like that, right? So most of the time, if I go to a thrift store and I find something for whatever reason, if it's a miracle and I find something that's double XL, it'll be way too baggy. But if I find something that's XL, it'll be stupid short. It'll look like a bib on me, like I'm at Red Lobster eating those fucking Chesapeake Bay biscuits, cheddar biscuits, whatever they're called, right? So most of the time, thrifting is not something that is enjoyable for me, and it's not something that's usually productive, because most of the time it's not something that actually yields good-looking clothing for me. The reason I'm mentioning all this is because this crew neck sweater, it's actually thrifted. I don't know what the brand is. It says, has a little American flag on it, and it says San Francisco, California, USA, whatever. It's a pretty dope navy blue crew neck, right? I think it's very trendy, maybe. I don't know. But I was considering not getting it because I'm like, it fits kind of frumpy, like Front Master Flex. What's up, pajamas? This is my other cat that was not on display before. He's a big motherfucker. He's chilling off frame. If he comes up on the couch, I'll show him for y'all. But anyways, most of the time, right, it doesn't fit well. And this particular top, this sweater, when I tried it on for the first time, it fit kind of frumpy. So I wasn't really feeling it. And it was $18. It wasn't the price that was throwing me off. I was just like, why would I buy this when someone else could get better use out of it? Like, whatever. I don't want to be wasteful. Anyways, I put this thing on and I thought it looked frumpy. But my boy and Hannah were like, that looks kind of good. You should try it on. Or you should take it with you after I tried it on. I'm like, whatever. It's $18. I'll just fucking get it. I get it. And then Hannah tells me that would look really fire with like a little white collar sticking out over the top. And I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, that's gonna look so stupid, because I've never worn anything like that remotely in this direction of style. I don't have any sense of style. All right. Like, if I could be, I would be the type of guy that wears like the same shit every fucking day, day in and day out. Matter of fact, in middle school, I was the type of dude that wore like gray sweatpants, Reebok sneakers, and like a trashy ass high school, like my high school's like fundraising t-shirts, like that every single fucking day. No joke, every single day. Because I bought multiple of the exact same size so I could just wear it and be clean, but I looked like a bum. So that's me, right? That's how I prefer to rock my clothes, my attire, my apparel. And for whatever reason, lately I've been feeling like, all right, I got to step my shit up, because first of all, I'm in Brooklyn now. I'm not in bumblefuck New York, upstate New York. And I got appearances to keep up, because I don't want to be showing up to, my place of work, my profession in non-professional attire. I don't want to be looking like a bum. So I put this on, and to my surprise, I actually thought it was a pretty fire fit. Not with these jeans. I don't even know if you can see that I'm wearing jeans on frame. But the original fit that I tried this shit out for the first time was with ripped jeans. And I was kind of feeling myself. I'm not going to lie. I went to go see my mom. She complimented me, as usually moms do. And I felt pretty gassed up. So then I was like, fuck it. This is going to be a staple thing. And now I think I might go thrifting more often, which is really fucking annoying, because I don't want to be like one of those typical Brooklynite hipsters, right? I love hipstery shit. I just don't like the stigma that comes along with being a hipster. Like, I don't like people thinking like that I'm dirty or some shit, because hipsters be doing some weird shit. Like, they be drinking kombucha made in someone's bathtub and wearing hemp clothes that was like chewed up, like the hemp was chewed up, spit out by like some dude in fucking Central America, and it's organically harvested, whatever. Fucking, I don't, that whole thing, that stigma is not really for me. I really don't want that associated with myself, but I do love hipstery shit. So I guess it's a paradox, so that's pretty fire. I got this. I got another nice shirt from Tommy Bahama, which was originally priced probably in like the triple digits, and I got that shit for $18. So solid dubs all around. Shout out to Crossroads Trading Post. I think that's the original name in Buffalo Exchange of those two stores in Williamsburg. They're super basic for anyone who does thrifting. They're probably like, oh, that's not even where you go to get the Levi 501s from 1970, whatever the fuck. Those are the places I went to. I got this crew neck. I got that Tommy Bahama shirt. So I'm chilling. So it's a good time. I enjoyed it. This is kind of an impromptu podcast recording. I just came home, threw this shit up, and I'm trying to say my piece. And I've been thinking about the premise of this podcast lately. Like, why did I start the podcast? What is the purpose of this podcast? A lot of, I've been talking to different people in my life, and they all know that ultimately, like, my ultimate dream, like, if you were to, pick any one career, if you were to pick any one job, what would it be? I love the idea of being a podcaster, because I don't like the stigma necessarily that comes along with like dudes and having a podcast. I feel like if I say out in the streets, Hannah put this like in the best way. Like, she didn't say exactly this, but I'm paraphrasing. It's if I fucking say I have a podcast, which I don't. I never introduce myself as, hey, yo, my name's Brandon. I have a podcast. You should check it out. That shit's mad cringe to me. But the stigma associated along with saying that you have a podcast, it's like automatically I'm already bucketed or boxed into this group of dude that's like the Andrew Tates of the world, or whatever the fuck. I can't remember the name of that podcast, but it's the dude of that bald guy. It's the bald dude, not Andrew Tate, who also just says like out of pocket shit about like women and whatever. A lot of hot takes, right? And there's a bunch of dudes on the internet who have, got their 5 seconds of fame by saying these hot takes. I don't like that stigma. The whole reason I started the podcast was actually for, I would consider wholesome reasons. I found myself having conversations that were really impactful for me with friends, family, loved ones. And I'm like, yo, this would be sick if like 50 years in the future, I could go back and listen in on these conversations. I know that sounds mad cheesy and like I'm bullshitting. It sounds like a marketing thing, like a marketing ploy to be like, oh my God, he's so wholesome. That's not it at all. I'm being so genuine. Actually, to this day, I fucking go back to old episodes old episodes, and I rewatch some of the podcast episodes that I had because they were just like so. It's just like such a genuine conversation and experience that I had with my guests. My guests being my friends most of the time, right? I haven't had anyone on the show that I haven't known beforehand. Like I haven't had someone come on to the show and then I meet them for the first time. Going forward, I think that is probably something that I'm going to have to do, you know, just to grow this account, this platform, become an influencer, all that shit. Probably something I'm going to have to do. Not something I'm extremely opposed to either, right? I think that's probably... It's good just for, you know, growth strategy, just in that perspective, but it's also good because it allows me to, you know, get to know more people, have good conversations, memorable conversations, and it's also just a good way to, you know, just make connections and, you know, just have memorable moments. So it's something that's for sure something that I plan going forward. And the purpose of this podcast really is, it's not, you know, whenever people do find out that I have a podcast, they ask me like, what is it about? I never know what to say to that. I don't think it's about any one particular thing. I think it's a lot of the times just me shooting the shit. And I think that's okay. I think actually that's probably, if it is in any way genuine, that's what gives it its charm, at least in my eyes. Right. But I'm super biased, obviously, because it's my shit. Ultimately, what I would love to do is to, just keep doing this, just share more memorable moments and, you know, build a little cool community or whatever. But the reason I was kind of reflecting on it is because I found myself, this cat is about to... Don't do it. Sorry. I found myself kind of at a standstill, or a crossroads more so, of getting like stage fright to record, which is super weird. I don't really, when I do record, I don't have a hard premise, right? Most of the time, if I have a guest on, we'll have a soft premise, meaning we could really talk about anything, but this is like the main point of you coming on. So for example, Mike, who was on one of the two of the last episodes, recent episodes, it was that 2-parter that was about Iceland, because it was a really long episode. That makes sense because we shared that experience together. So he came onto the show to kind of recap the experience and, you know, just share funny perspective, his perspective, share funny stories, all that good stuff, right? And that's really more so of a documentation of that shared memory that we have together. It was a beautiful, you know, time. Great to recap those memories, right? But then when I'm recording podcasts by myself, that's really where the stage fright starts kicking in. When I don't have like an actual experience to go over, when I don't have an actually like a soft premise, just throwing the camera up on the tripod, pressing record on my, you know, my MacBook, and actually doing this thing and just talking. That's when I get stage fright, because it's almost like I feel like I have to have something to talk about in order to talk, which is, it's a good thing for sure, because I don't want to just come up here and you know, just randomly start babbling on. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because in doing so, I've delayed so much progress in terms of actually putting out more content. I think right now I have like 112 subscribers, and my average cadence of posting, I would say, is like in 3, and this is generous, 3 weeks to 4 weeks. That's not good. That's not consistent enough. No matter what, the point of this podcast isn't to get famous, internet famous, or isn't to do any of those things. It's really just to document conversations, and it's a really fun hobby of mine. I'm going to keep doing it no matter what. But it would be awesome if this were to develop into some sort of career, you know, whatever it is. That would ultimately be a freedom or a choice, really, that I am privileged enough to have, like to be able to actually go down that route. You know, I was, you know, born in the US, land of opportunity and all that good stuff. So if I keep up with it, it could potentially later down the road turn into a career. But I fucked myself over because of that stage fright, because of that self-doubt or whatever it is. It's just kind of turning into like a cringe motivational episode. I don't intend for it to be that way, but these are just thoughts that I was having, right? And I was just kind of sick of not knowing or delaying recording, because the actual act of recording, right, is really fun to me. The setup is the thing that gives me pause and anxiety. Actually putting up, even though this is super pathetic to say, putting up this fucking backdrop, putting up the tripod, setting up the ring light, connecting this USB microphone to the laptop, just setting everything up, it deters me from actually recording the podcast episodes. And the reason why is because I get kind of caught up like, oh man, like, it's just so much to do. Oh man, it's going to be super drawn out. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to talk about. All that bad self-talk, right? And I realized that kind of fucked me over. And I need something to drive me to be more consistent. And unfortunately, I've realized that one of the biggest drivers in my life is like fear. I do certain things, or I perform the best because I don't want to let other people down, right? I guess in this instance, what I'm talking about is more so like my parents, whatever it is. And it's that fear that kind of drives me to like, oh, I can't fuck up, so I got to do X, Y, and Z. Now, with the podcast, because it's purely self-imposed, like no one told me to do this. This is something that I started out of, my own validity, whatever. I shouldn't have used words that I don't know how to appropriately pronounce. Whatever it is, self-imposed. I started this myself because I love conversation and I love podcasts. So I did it, but in doing so, there's nothing to fear if it doesn't work out. So I kind of took it for granted, right? I didn't give it my all. I'm still not giving it my all, as unfortunate as that is to say. So I kind of came up with like a self-hack. And that self-hack is I started to invest more in the actual podcast, meaning like monetarily invest more. I think if I put because I would consider myself a pretty financially responsible person. I don't like spending money that I don't have, all that good stuff. But I think buying equipment and actually putting a price tag, like investing things into this podcast, it'll make me fear just losing that money for no reason, right? Even though this is a passion project, it's a hobby of mine. I love doing it. If I put something of enough weight, enough monetary weight into this podcast, it'll kind of make me wake up and realize I have to do this. I have to do this. I owe it to myself because I've gone and invested, And it doesn't feel like work when I'm actually recording. I love that. But it's just like getting myself over the hump of setting all this shit up and all those stupid excuses, holding myself accountable, all that great shit. So what did I do? I went out and fucking bought, this is going to sound so stupid. It's $150, right? I bought myself a recorder. I forget the name of the company, but I'm not going to give them free marketing for the 5 people who see this. But I bought myself a podcast recorder, right? And I plan on buying myself a microphone, like a really good microphone, like a not state of the art, but the industry standard microphone for podcasting, recording, all that good shit. That microphone I plan on getting. And this is no cheap, this isn't some cheap fucking $2 dollar store microphone. It's going to cost me about $500. The recorder was $150. And then the real kick in the balls, whenever I get around to doing it, is buying the camera. I'm going to go on a little rant here. A fucking camera, right? Like a DSLR. I think that's the digital cameras, the Canons, like the cameras that most photographers or whatever influencers use to vlog and all that shit. Those are not that expensive. They're expensive. Cameras get stupid expensive, out of nowhere. You could get a camera anywhere from $200, maybe even $80. I don't know. Or if you want to get those cheap, single use cameras, that shit's $10, $5, whatever. And then if you want to get the highest end camera possible, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars, right? The DSLRs, those digital cameras, those aren't that expensive, but I can't use those, right? The reason why I can't use those, and this is just a general tidbit of information for anyone looking to start a podcast or whatever it is because a podcast is obviously by nature a long form piece of content. So you need a camera that can shoot for upwards of 45 minutes and upwards, right? We're talking long periods of time. For whatever fucking reason, because it's a money game, right? Canon, Sony, all these Kodak, all these cameras all these companies that make these DSLR cameras, They have a hard-coded bit of software in the camera that caps off the video recording at a limit of 30 minutes, I believe. That's not going to cut it for a podcast because you never want to press record, then have to go do your shit for 30 minutes. I mean, I'm already at 20 just for this recording, right? And I barely talked about shit. Then to go back and press record, it's annoying. It's very frustrating to do that. You want something that just can consistently record. Those cameras will cost you a pretty penny. The ones I'm looking at, and this is just by doing like very surface level preliminary research on YouTube, on Google, whatever it may be. A lot of those cameras, we're talking like $1,500 minimum for like a camcorder or like a video recorder, to cameras that are like the ones that are industry standard for podcasters, for all these people who like have 100,000 plus subscribers on YouTube, all that good stuff. They're using cameras that are like 5Gs, and that's without the fucking lens. That's just the camera, not including the lighting rig, not including the tripod. So all in all, we're talking like a $10,000 investment. Am I making that right now up front? Of course not. That's insane to invest $10,000. But I figure little by little, as I invest more time, as I buy more equipment, it's a positive feedback loop, right? So I buy some sort of equipment piece that costs me some sort of money. That then motivates me to record more. But then me recording more justifies me spending more money on another piece of equipment, which then motivates me to record more frequently, put out more content. So this is like the brain hack that keeps me up at night, the shit that I think about late at night. We're talking like midnight to 3 a.m. when I think about this, whatever it is that I'm trying to build, if I'm really like trying to build something. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. I feel like a lot of the times too, I fear kind of repeating myself, but then through listening to so many different podcasts, not like so many different, but a bunch of different podcasts, I've realized that a lot of these people, they recycle or reuse stories, and that's perfectly fine, right? Like, how many times in your own personal life have you gone out, you've met new people, and you tell the same story, but just to a different audience? It's okay to, in a different episode, say the same story over and over again. This is so fucking stupid, but I've actually gone, like, I've purposely withheld certain funny, hilarious stories to not say them, because I'm like, I need to wait until I have a substantial subscriber count or whatever to tell the story. And I realize that that's such a dumb thing to do. So going forward, right, I'm hoping to be a more genuine version of myself and tell stories that just, I'm not going to limit myself, right? I'm not going to hold myself back. If in a conversation, whatever, it reminds me of a certain story, I'm not going to not say it just because I'm like, oh, I'm not big enough. Like, that was a stupid way of thinking. And really more so a justification as to why I didn't have to put as much effort into previous episodes. I'm coming clean. This is, I think this is going to be episode 47, 46 or something like that. Maybe 48. But I'm hoping that henceforth, this podcast will turn a new leaf and it'll be, just better all around. Hopefully more entertaining for you, the viewer. And, we'll just build this shit and make it do what it do, because I love nothing more than to have these conversations and just like shoot the shit and all that stuff. I also just love the art of like storytelling. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I don't know when. I also don't know why I want to do this. But I've decided, not recently, this is something that I knew I've wanted to do for a really long time. On my bucket list, it is to do an open mic night of stand-up comedy. That sounds crazy to say out loud, right? Like to put it on official record. But the reason I want to do it is more so to kind of test myself rather than to see to get attention. I don't think I'm going to be good. I think I have funny moments maybe here and there. But I don't think that translates well to obviously stand-up comedy. It's a very hard profession to do. It's a very difficult art form that is uniquely honed and crafted through the trials and tribulations of getting shit on while on stage, like trying to perform. So it's like, in a way, one of the most vulnerable art forms that someone can pursue, because you're going, especially as like a beginner, right? Not that I know anything about this, but I'm kind of regurgitating information from other stand-up comedians. As a beginner, your first time that you go up there and you go up on stage and you try to test out this material, see what you're made of, everybody fucking sucks ass their first time they go up. And you get shit on, and you know that feeling of just embarrassment. And the reason I think if I break this down and I look at myself from an outside lens, right? An outside perspective, and I analyze myself, I think the reason that I want to go and do an open mic night is because my whole life I've been very concerned with the way other people perceive me, right? Not so much like, oh, he's so, stylish or whatever it is. It's just like, I don't want to be viewed like badly in like, oh my God, that guy is like such a fucking loser or whatever. Nobody does, right? But I think in a lot of ways it's limited me. Like I get too caught up in those things. And I think it's fucking stupid to just waste my time. I think it's stupid for anyone to waste their own time so caught up in worrying about how others perceive them rather than just doing what they want to do, right? And I think a means for me to just push myself over the edge of, fuck it, like, let's just see what happens, because I've been wanting to do this, is to do stand-up comedy. Because if I know what it feels like to get shit on that stage, what else could be worse than that? Like actually think about this. What can be worse than standing up on a stage, right? Whether it be in front of 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 people, number really doesn't matter. You're on a stage with lights on you. You go up to try to, I don't know, perform. You're in a very vulnerable state, and then you just crickets, or you hear people like, you suck, whatever it is. To hear that would be crushing, but after that, it's like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Like, what the fuck would I care about, like, after that experience? You wouldn't. At least that's what my weird logic is behind that. Also, I just want to see, like, if I could make somebody laugh. It's a really weird thing to do, but I have always admired stand-up comedy. Like, I've literally always admired it since like 12 years old, which doesn't mean like, oh, that's not always. Like, people be fucking saying like, oh, like professional athletes, I've always loved like the game of insert sport here. Like, since I was like fucking 2, I was kicking a soccer ball or swinging a baseball bat, whatever it is. No, I didn't have a formal opinion when I was that age. No one does. When you're 2 years old, you're literally just a product of your surrounding. Like, if your fucking dad loves basketball, when you're 2, you're going to love basketball. It's not that you genuinely love that thing. I don't know what age it transitions from that into your actual own personality. You could argue that it never does, and you're just a product of your environment, whatever. Hold your philosophical theories for the comments. I just happen to think, like, for me, when I was around 10, 12, that's really when I started remembering, like, formulating my own opinions. And now that I think about it, no one in my life, up until recently, until like I, started speaking about this with family members, no one in my life actually like put me on stand-up comedy. Like, no one told me, yo, have you seen X, Y, and Z special or bits or whatever? No one ever said any of that shit. I think the first person that I watched their stand-up comedy special, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, oh my God, it's a dude just standing on stage and talking. What is that? He's not singing? I thought only musicians go up on stage, and I thought only musicians have a microphone, and, I thought you have to be talented and sing, like, do something musically or like act on stage. Like, what the fuck is it? What is that? What is he doing? I think the first person that I saw that it intrigued me, I want to say might have been Sebastian Maniscalco. But there are, like, he was kind of like my gateway comedian, if you will. Like, I think I saw him do a stand-up special or like a bit online or something, and it kind of like piqued my curiosity. No, it wasn't Sebastian. It was George Lopez. And then I actually went to go see him live in person at the Mohegan Sun when he was doing like some sort of tour, and it was insane. Like, my stomach was cramping at how hard I was laughing, right? So ever since then I was hooked. A lot of my, like how people have comfort shows that they watch on repeat. Like, a lot of people watch The Office, or I don't know, like New Girl or whatever it is. A lot of people watch those types of shows, Terrace House, whatever it may be. I know that's like a weird one to throw out there, but people just have their comfort shows on Netflix that they watch. For me, it's stand-up comedy specials because I love laughing. I love seeing other people laugh. And whether this be selfish or not, I love to make people laugh. Like that's the best feeling to me, right? So I figure, why the fuck not? Like, I don't think I'll be really any good at it, but I just think it'll be interesting to just have that experience. I think as I get older, I realize like I'm really motivated by I not motivated, that's not the right word. I am very curious about doing things just for the sake of doing them because it's a new experience. Not necessarily because I'm, like interested in the thing itself. In this case with stand-up comedy, I am actually very interested in stand-up comedy. Not as a profession per se, but more so as an art form. I love stand-up comedy, right? But I'm talking about like trying Rotten Shark, which I went over in a previous episode with Mike. I don't actually want to fucking eat shark. But the reason I did it was because like I'm interested in the experience of trying something that is a lot of people consider to be like one of the worst foods in the world. That to me, just having that experience, being able to say like, oh my God, I did that. And then like, holy shit, like how did I perceive it? Whatever it is, that whole thing for whatever reason, it's just like very interesting to me. It's very intriguing. So I find myself being, drawn to certain things or doing certain things just for the sake of doing them, to have those new experiences. I feel like I didn't put that too eloquently. I feel like there was definitely, if there was a therapist here that would say there's some sort of self-destructive behavior fucking shit that they could, extract from that, whatever it is. But that's just how my brain works. And that's just why I want to do, certain things. So it's pretty crazy, hopefully. I don't really know where to even start, where I would go about, doing that first open mic night set. But the really funny thing is, I mentioned this in passing to a couple of my friends, right? And family members. And I said like, oh, dude, you know what? Like, I don't know. I don't remember how it came up, but I was just like, dude, like one day I want to do just like a fucking open mic night set. And they're like, what? Like stand-up comedy? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, when are you going to do it? Like, let me know. And I was like, what? I was so shook by that. I'm like, what do you mean let you know? Like, why would you want to be there for that? Like, I don't want them to be there for that, which is so fucking funny because it's very admirable. Like, they're trying to be supportive of me, right? Like, they're trying to be there for me. But I'm like, no, I don't want you to be there for that when I just bomb on stage. Like, I don't want you to see me just get slaughtered by whatever audience is there. I don't want you to have to see me crash and burn. That's something that I'll do by myself. And then eventually I'll tell you about it after the trauma scars have healed and I'm ready enough. I'm ready to speak about it and tell you about that fucking crazy experience. On like a side note, that does speak to, the quality of friends that I have, that I keep, the quality of the company that I keep. Shout out to my boy Tom. Unfortunately, a couple days ago, this is like super tangential, but as is the nature of podcasts. Shout out to my boy Tom. He's been on the show before. I think it was like episode 30 something. The other day, my neighbor had a fire. All right. Before I say this, I just want to say, you got to appreciate your friends and family, right? You really do have to. You got to appreciate your loved ones. And you got to tell your loved ones that you appreciate them. You should never be afraid to communicate those feelings and emotions of like love and, all that great stuff. You should never be scared to tell someone that you love them, right? And you should frequently, I believe at least, with your friends and family. The reason I say that is because I'm really fortunate to have the friend group I have. I'm really fortunate to keep the company that I keep. And an example of this happened recently. I mean, I don't need any examples, but I'm just telling you as an example, you the listener. My friend Tom, he went to go visit my mom's house the other day. The reason why is because, unfortunately, one of the neighbors, like around one of the neighboring houses of my parents' home, where I'm from, my hometown, caught fire for whatever reason. It wasn't like a really bad fire. The whole house didn't, burn to the ground, but it was on fire. Like there was smoke, like legitimate smoke coming out of the fucking windows and doors. And it was like enough to get the whole fire department there. There were firefighters on the roof watering the house. Like the house was still up, but there was a lot of damage done internally. And my mom had FaceTimed me about this. And she calls me and she shows the house and it's literally on fire. Like my neighbor's house is on fire. She's FaceTiming me. And I'm like, oh my God, like thank God that, you're okay. That the house, like, the fire didn't spread or whatever. You never really know what happens. You never know. But thank God, like, you guys are fine, right? And even though, like, I don't think at least that it's very common occurrence for one house to catch fire and then, like, for it to just jump onto another house. Now, we're not talking about, like, city houses. We're talking about suburbia. So they're very spaced out. Like, you have a front yard, backyard, all that good stuff. I don't think it's common for one house to catch fire and then for all of a sudden somehow for that fire to make its way over to a neighboring house. So even though that's the case where it's not common that happens, my friend Tom, he actually stopped by my parents without me there, right? I'm in Brooklyn. My parents are in Rockland, where I'm from. And my boy Tom, he still lives at home. And the reason I'm saying shout out to you, Tom, is because he fucking went in the middle of the workday. He drove over to my parents' house, right? He's very community oriented. So he found out about this fire rather quickly, through social media or whatever it is, because it was a pretty big fire. And he drove all the way to my parents' house, knocked on the door and checked up on my family. Actually, my dad was on my mother. My mother was home alone with my dog because my dad was on a business trip for work. He drove all the way to my parents' house to check up on my mom. I didn't ask him to do that. I didn't expect him to do that, but he did it anyways. And that is such a beautiful thing. And I'm forever grateful for him, for the people like him that I have in my life. The fact that he did that, it's just, it impacted me like much deeper than, I don't have words to really say how much it impacted me. Like, I was at work. She FaceTimed me while I was on my lunch break, so I knew she was okay. And then he called me on my phone. He was like, yo, pick up. And I was like, oh, I can't. Like, I'm in the office right now. Is everything okay? He's like, yeah. And then he sends me a selfie of him and my mom in the background, or in my house. And he's like, yeah, just stop by your house to check if your mom's okay. That's a real fucking friend right there. That's a real fucking G. That's a ride or die homie. You got to find that caliber of person to keep around you in your life, right? And you have to reciprocate that level of love for that individual. Like, I don't know how it came to be. This is a really serious episode, actually, now that I think about it, but fuck it. It is what it is. You got to keep this type of company around you, man. And I'm blessed. Like, everyone that I keep around me, all the loved ones that I've had, the people that I've had on the show before, it is such a tightly knit friend group and a band of brothers that I would never, brothers and sisters, because there's women friends in my life who have been there for me through a lot, that like they just inspire me and they keep me going. So that's my 2 cents on that. The future episodes that I have coming up should be way more entertaining in terms of lightheartedness, funniness. Because I'm actually going to Penn State. Excuse me. Your boy's going to Penn State Part 2. I spoke about this with Mike. Actually, I don't know if Mike was not on. This was on my top 5 moments of 2022, was the Penn State trip Part 1 that I made with Mike to go over to visit my sister. Go Lions. We went there and it was a fucking hoot of a time. We're talking alcohol. We're talking more alcohol. Drink responsibly. And we're talking some Schweed sprinkled in there too. All that plus great music, great company. Happy Valley really is the Happy Valley, right? Like, that shit was lit. And now it's Penn State Part Dos. Me and Mike, same crew, making that drive 4.5 hours west to bumblefuck Cow Patty, Pennsylvania, to visit my sister for the second and final time before she graduates this May. And that episode recapping that experience, I hope, if everything goes smoothly, will be a great time because we're going to have some fucking crazy stories to tell. Another episode that's coming up in the future, my boy Terrence, he should be coming on. We're just going to, shoot the shit. It's going to be a great time. It's always a great time whenever I have someone come on. But I'm really excited for future episodes, like I said, because I'm approaching this podcasting thing with a new mentality, a sharpened blade, if you will. My mind being the blade. That was a fucking corny ass samurai-like quote, whatever, soundbite, but it is what it is. On the note of like memories, actually, with Mike, I've seen this motherfucker. Mike, I don't know if you're listening or if you've even made it this far into the episode, because at this point, like, the only people that really listen are people that I know. I've seen this dude. I live in Brooklyn. My house from here is like an hour and 10, an hour and 20, even an hour and 30 with traffic, depending, because New York City's fucking ridiculously densely populated. I've seen him 5 weeks in a row. Or it will be 5 weeks this weekend when I go to Penn State with him. Every single week has been a crazy time. We got some stories. I'm going to let those stories be told when he comes on the podcast, but I just want to give one little... For me, it meant a lot. I just want to tell one little story about the last weekend that we had. Growing up, right? I'm going to set the stage a little bit here. Growing up, when I went to New York for the first time, right? I was born in Queens, or I think Long Island Jewish Hospital, I think is the name of it, whatever. Long Island, border of Long Island, Queens, whatever it is. I like to say Queens because who the fuck wants to say they were born in Long Island? Born in Queens. And from there, I lived in Queens till I was about like 3. So not enough to say that I'm from the city. But then I moved upstate for fucking city people. But it's really just a suburb outside across the Hudson River, northwest of the boroughs. I grew up there for like the majority of my life, right? When I came back to the city for the first time, for the first time that I could remember as like a 7-8-year-old or whatever, it was with my grandma, because my grandfather on my mom's side, he had worked, he was the head of carpentry for one of like the biggest hotels in New York City. It was the Grand Hyatt, right? Which is literally like attached to Grand Central Station. So that's like a key landmark of New York City, right? Grand Central Station. That's like one of the most famous train stations, if not the most famous train station in the world, right? So she would go in to pick him up from work. We're talking like midnight, because he had weird hours. Like some nights he'd have to do some stuff overnight at the hotel. So like at midnight she would drive in to pick him up. And if it was like a Friday or a Thursday or whatever, even though I had to get up to go to elementary school, my grandma would, my parents would let my grandma take me to go for the ride, and I loved it. I remember very vividly going across the GW, and as I'm going into the city from the George Washington Bridge, I see the skyline of New York City, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's so fucking mystical. Like it's a place where like dreams come true, all the shit crazy shit that you think of as a kid, right? And what really cemented my love for the city is when I went on my first this is super touristy, the tour. I think I was like 11. The tour buses where they have no tops on the roof. So it's like a convertible, bus, double decker. For my like 11th or 12th birthday, my grandma got me tickets to go on that bus for like the second time. I had already been on a couple, and I was old enough to really understand what the guy was saying, like historical facts, all that stuff. And I was just mesmerized by like the density of the history of New York City. Right? Like there are endless amounts of stories, endless amounts of, historical events, endless amounts of just fucking things that have happened in New York City that you could just write endless amount of fiction. It's just like a place that carries so much weight. The name New York City, like everyone knows New York City, right? So when they were telling me all those things, giving me the guide, like the tour and all that stuff, I just fell in love with it. And I remember telling myself as a kid, I'm like, one of my earliest memories is literally telling myself, I one day want to live in New York City. I really meant Manhattan. Brooklyn's close enough. As I've aged, I've realized like Brooklyn's kind of fucking dope. So I'm still going to count it, but I live here now, right? And I never had, because of, just circumstances, being so busy with work and then, like moving in, all this drawn out process, I never went out. Like me and Hannah, we still haven't really had a night out on the town or whatever until last weekend. Literally, this past weekend, it was such an impromptu thing. We came back from work, and then all of a sudden, I just texted a couple of my friends, like, yo, I haven't seen you in a minute. And then they're just like, Paul, who's been on the show before, he calls me, and he's like, whoa, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't really have any plans. Why? What happened? And then we just piecemeal together this fucking plan of starting the night off in Brooklyn, then transitioning into Manhattan. And then Mike, who lives in Rockland, or, the suburbs, drove an hour all the way down to Brooklyn, brought an overnight bag, literally impromptu. Like, we're talking, the plan was made at 6:45 p.m. and the night started at like 7:15 because it took 30 minutes for Paul and his girl to make it over to Brooklyn, and then Mike obviously a little longer. So we had gone out to get dinner, whatever. We pre-gamed, had a great time. Then we went out to Williamsburg. And the reason this is such a big, memorable night for me is because this was my first night out, my first city night while being a resident of one of the 5 boroughs. We started our night off in downtown Brooklyn, had dinner, went out to go get frozen sangria, one of the best frozen sangrias that I've had. Probably one of the best frozen sangrias that I will ever have. It's fucking delicious. And it is from a place called Vines Bar in downtown Brooklyn. It's amazing, okay? It's just, every part of it is good. So we pre-gamed by having a couple tequila shots in the apartment. Then we went out to go get a frozen sangria. And then the original plan was to go into Manhattan, but because it was a little deep and we were a little lazy to go because it was freezing to go all the way to the subway and whatever, we decided to just go to Williamsburg, and we Ubered to Williamsburg. When we got to Williamsburg, the original spot that we went to go to called Fresh Kills Bar, shout out to a friend from work, Claire. She put me on that place, right? She said I had to go to it because it's the type of bar when you walk in, you tell them the flavor profile and the liquor that you like, and they just mixology, through the miracle of mixology, make you a fucking cocktail that you will most likely enjoy. We didn't get to go into that place because the vibes weren't really bumping, and there was also a line, so we just went to another spot, and I found this place called Bembe. An incredibly, it's just like a hidden gem, I would say. It's a fucking small, like it's not a big bar. It's on like a corner, and it shoots down one, like a corner like this, right? It just shoots down one side of the corner, and it's a long bar, and inside there's a DJ, and then there's a dude on the drums. I think the genre of music changes every so often, whatever. This night, it was like Afro beats, which is crazy because actually I've been into Afro, like, I don't know if that's what you call it, but I think like Afro beats lately. Like, I've been fucking with Burna Boy. I've been fucking with like that style of music lately. And so has Mike. And when we went to that place, that shit was fucking bumping. They were playing like Latin music, like a little bit, but majority was that Afrobeat style. Like, that shit was just like amazing. We were just dancing, having drinks, like doing our thing. And then from there, it just had so much charm because it was such a small spot, and like everybody that went there, they just like, it just felt very like cliquey, but like niche. That's the word. Like, it felt like we found like a hole in the wall dance spot, right? We went from there to another couple bars, super cool, like bars, like one place called The Woods had a bar in the front with a dance floor with a DJ, not live music. And then in the back, you went out into like a courtyard area. And then on the other side of the courtyard was another building, but it wasn't accessible to like the public from like the sidewalk. You had to go through the business front, which is the bar, to get to it. And it was a taco shop chilling in the back, like a full fucking taco shop. That shit to me screams hidden gem, Yelp review, fucking vlog about this shit in New York City. Like, it feels like it should be on like one of those like series like Feed Phil or whatever it is, like where they just find these unique little eateries and event places for you to create lifelong memories with your fucking friends, right? Like, we found these places and we went out, and I stayed out till 5 a.m. We're talking some real city living shit, like staying out till the fucking wee hours. I got back at like 4:30, showered, whatever, and then stayed up till 5 a.m. doing this shit, right? we'll go into that night a little more in detail when Mike is on. I don't want to speak for him because he has some funny ass perspective on that night, and the reason why we went out was really interesting and stuff like that. So when he comes on the podcast to recap Penn State, I'm sure I'll bring this up if I remember to bring it up, and he'll tell a way better story than I will. But yeah, that's my that's today's or this week's episode. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching through and through. It means a lot to me. And hold me accountable. Comment, interact, do whatever you need to do. Give suggestions for the show. I'm open. I'm an open book, and I'm also open to a lot of suggestions and all that good stuff. So I look forward to recording more episodes. I've said it many times before, but I'll say it again, and hopefully this time it sticks. I plan on recording more frequently. I really do think that now I'm going to turn a new leaf by actually investing, and putting some money behind this thing. And because I don't like losing money. Who the fuck does? And yeah, it's going to be a great time. And I will be fortunate enough to record memories on camera and post it onto the miracle that is the internet forever. So in case on one day when I'm like, what the fuck happened? What did me and him talk about, or me and her talk about? It's on fucking YouTube for me to watch. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Until next time, please be sure to like and subscribe, all that social media shit. Cue the outro music. All right, there we go. Until next time, deuces. Peace out, y'all.